Oh, whoa, there you are. Anyway, before you pick on me, Hebrew, especially the religion, the early Israelites, as sometimes we call them, their whole tradition was an oral tradition. So books, I collect books because I read. Like Indiana Jones in the third movie says, you know, you should try reading them instead of burning them. Anyway, so one of the people who has come to my channel, and I'll remember the name right now, it's unimportant, just wanted to know a little bit about Gematria. Hey, Twin Flame, welcome. I don't know anything about Gematria, let's be clear. I'm not a dabbler or anything. I've read a ton, like I said, and most of it's pretty vague at this point in my mind, but like I said, I do collect books. And this book, it's sad to say, a fairly misunderstood person. Not that I'm even backing his life at all, but he actually was raised deeply religious Christian. And he probably lived a very regrettable life. But anyway, so I say, books aren't necessarily the problem. And me too. And last night I went to bed at 11:01. That seems to happen a lot to me. 7:07, 6:06. Of course, 7:07, if you flipped it, would be laugh out loud. So anyway, so I'm going to give a quick example now. Essentially, Gematria is like this book I happened to find in my cupboard. Oh, I guess I'm going to flip the screen for a second so it's easier. All right, so it's funny, I have this book. Like I said, I collect books. Well, this is like a CIA book. It's codes and ciphers. Well, it just so happens that Gematria is pretty similar. Anyway, so that's, you know, and I was looking for something else, and I was like, oh yeah, well, they are pretty similar. They've, the mysticism hidden in the ancient Hebrew Bible, things are hidden, and that's the numerical context. So I'm going to give you an example. Back again to that side. Now, in Hebrew, not English, you have a Akkad, ACHD, and it equals 13. You have unity, it equals 13. One, of course, those are American English, not American, but anglicized English words. all of these things, which all appear very similar, unity, one, love, all equal 13. So, in the mystical sense of the word, anytime something is, if you take their letters, in Hebrew, every letter is a number. And I think, all right, well, this is, well, the Holy Trinity. So I don't think numbers are bad. And so I have, this is one of the charts. And so they've taken the alphabet and they split it. Now you'll notice there's a CH and there's a Z and there's a V and there's a TZ, SH and a TH. Well, that's because, yeah, exactly. They've, this is the Hebrew English kind of translation. And so when you take the Hebrew alphabet, which has 22 letters, and then you divide it in half, except for you're using English letters to substitute, the ones are replaced by things like that because they match their sounds. Alpha, you know, Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth. Those are Hebrew letters. So, oh God, yeah, sorry. Good thinking. I'm on an iPad too. Anyway. And so, like I said, I don't really do this stuff. I mean, it was funny. I'd made a video a little while ago, and it was right around the Vegas shootings. You're welcome. And it was about the well, they have Gematria calculators. If you just go online and type in a Gematria calculator, you can put your name in, and it'll give you a number. It'll give you a Hebrew and an English, and it'll probably even give you a Greek. Just remember, it went from Hebrew to Greek to English to translate the Bible. Greek and Hebrew both have numerical equivalents. English is a little funny. We have 26 letters. So let me give you a brief synopsis of Hebrew. Well, you can look up the true English version, which I have written down. You can take another screenshot. This was written by Cornelius Agrippa in the 1500s out of Germany. Yeah, well, like I said, I don't know the quality or the value of these things as far as in reality. I've never gained any value or insight out of them except to say that I know that when these people wrote things, they were thinking of these things, and then they continue to use numbers on purpose, and therefore they get words. So here's one more. So the letter Shin in Hebrew equals 300. Well, Roach Elohim, Spirit of Elohim, equals 300. Because the letters are 200, V, 6, CH equals 8, and that's the picture I showed you earlier. A equals 1, L equals 30, H equals 5, and I equals 10, and M equals 40. And when you add them all together, you have 300. So therefore, when they're talking about the number of the beast, and his number is 666, this is what they're using, Gematria. So, that being said, I would prefer, just for fun, to go to the Gematria calculator than sit around like Aleister Crowley with a candle lit trying to figure out interesting things. Well, and Elohim, that was who created this world, right? In the beginning, the world was created, and it said, and they said, let us make him or them or him or in our image. Our Elohim is plural. And so they were the first God of this earth, I guess you would say. I'm gonna give you a little meaning behind in this book. I mean, there's a site you can go to called Sacred Texts, and it's the world's sacred text. Excellent. And so this sacred text site, if you look it up online, has every religious book written. I wouldn't guarantee it 100%, but most of them don't necessarily need the Bible, but it's there. Any book. These all come from a religious book called the Zohar, which is like a mystical treatise on God itself, and where the assembly of God is like the beard. His elders, the elder who are still in heaven worshiping him, are the beard of God. Things like that. And so this kind of comes out of that. But like I say, remember, this was all a oral tradition back in the day. This wasn't written down. So they must have been very good at numbers. So I'm going to give you a little a word on the numbers themselves, because these are the Hebrew. Now remember, there are 22 letters in the Hebrew language, which ironically match the 22 trumps, I believe is the word, for the tarot cards. And then you have Terra, Torah, Rota, all forms of that one word, a wheel, like the wheel of the universe. And so all of that goes together, and that was what he was trying to show in this book. Like I said, I don't even go there. I have no idea how it all works. It seems like there was still some confusion, and he wasn't sure on certain things. They were trying to change attributions of cards, and that's why we even have the playing cards. Those playing cards are the cups and the swords and the pentacles and things like that. And so, you know, those came out of that, and then they hid, and now they're just poker, whatever. So anyway, these are the numbers. Aleph, first number, it means ox. Principally because the shape of the letter suggests the shape of a yoke. There is also a preference to the mildness and patience of Harpocrates. Indeed, to his sexual innocence, the function of plowing is clearly the chief idea involved, and herein lies a paradox to be studied in the last act of Parsifal, who was a knight, King Arthur style knight, I believe. Beth, second letter, is a house, the letter showing the roof, the floor, and one wall. It is the dwelling place of man in the world of duality and illusion. Gimel, third letter, the camel. It reminds us of the position of the path on the tree of life, and that is the tree of the Kabbalah, which I don't have an image right now, but see, this is very mystical. They've been hiding this from people. Daleth, 4. A door. It refers to the position of the path as joining Chakma or Bina. It is the gate of the supernals. Again, it is the letter of Venus and shows sexual symbolism. The shape suggests the porch of a doorway or a porched tent flap. He, a window. It reminds us that understanding, or he being the letter of the mother in Tetragrammaton, it is the means by which light reaches us. Vau, V-A-U. That should be 6, I believe. Is a nail, ironically, that which crucified Jesus Christ. Suggests the fixation of the supernals. Zayin, 7, a sword. Cheth, 8, a fence. Teth is a serpent, it's 9. Yod, 10, is a hand. Kaf, 11, the palm of the hand. Lamed is an ox goad, 12. Is therefore principally a matter of shape. Mem is water, 13. Nun, N-U-N, is a fish. Samek, a prop. Ayin, an eye. Pei, a mouth. Tzadi, a fishhook. Quof, the back of the head. Resh, a head reversed. And Shin is a tooth. And Tau is a cross. And so those are the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And so they actually, unfortunately, in Hebrew aren't as simple as English. They have multiple layers. And so when you go to, well, the reason I showed you earlier 13 or 300 was because 1 and 11 and 111 and 1011 are all related. And if 1 is unity, then 11 is unity, which actually we just found out 13. And so it's a mathematical thing at that point. So, you know, divisible degrees or things like that, if they go together, they share the same meaning, and you can pass that down the line to like this. Now, if I'm looking in the book, you say, you've been seeing 777 a lot. Well, this book says 777, and of course you can just type in Gematria calculator and type in the number 777, or do it backwards and try to find a word that becomes 777. But here it gives the flaming sword. If the path from Bina to Chesed be taken as equaling 3. So it's the flaming sword. And so there are going to be other words like 77 which resemble the flaming sword. And the irony is I would like to be able to show you more on that level, but there are so many permutations of, like I say, this, where you have taken the alphabet and you split it. Well, that you see how it says Albeth? There are over possibly 20, maybe 100 different versions of splitting the alphabet so you can get a number out of it. And so back when I even started getting interested in this, I said, you know, there's really not enough unity, ironically, to decide which one would be what I'm supposed to use to find truth or anything interesting out of it. So I really, shortly after getting involved, I kept reading, but I really dropped the idea that I was going to gain anything out of this. Like I say, I think really what it was about was codes and ciphers. They were hiding, possibly that was their way of hiding truth from the Romans. If it is, they never bragged about it, you know what I mean? It's not like that. They don't really let you in on, that's why it's secret mysticism. I mean, Aleister Crowley, he just let it out. That was the time he was allowed to let it out. And then the irony is nobody even knew what the hell he's talking about. What I mean, he was just a cannibal. Like I said, he was raised a Christian. He was definitely so strong in the will that he was unable to face Jesus Christ anymore as a being, and that was a shame. But he started, I mean, this mysticism drove him mad. It drove him to the Pyramid of Egypt to do rituals to summon a spirit to speak with, because he was so lost. And so that's why I would say probably never go down the road of this. But I mean, certainly getting into it and just learning what your name equals, or I mean, we were all given names. My name's Brian Murray. I looked up Brian Murray, and in the Gematria calculator, that was why I even made this little video. The other one, it's 923 is what comes out when I type in Brian Murray. 923. So I thought it was funny. I mean, it's meaningless, right? I mean, if I'm the 923 event, that's a total letdown. Just a second. Wrong number. That's how numbers work. So anyway, that's why I wanted to do this little video. Like I do feel like you could probably, through the Sacred Texts website, find enough information on Gematria, the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life. But these are all mystical terms that have been carried down through ancient Hebrew tradition. And they were all oral at first, and now somebody finally broke down and put them all into book form. And so you can check them out. And so maybe it's a great tool for interpreting some biblical things, because everything's numerical in the Bible. 144,000 people, 40 days in the desert. Perhaps you can find a nice reaffirmation for the weird, like 11:11, or things we see that we just I mean, everything is of God ultimately. So it wasn't, I don't think it was ever meant as a weapon against us, but I do think that smart people, which God doesn't require of anyone to be smart, just worshiping and faithful and loving Him, took that knowledge and then used it to create CIA-style codes and ciphers that other people couldn't read. Because I could make up my own right now. I could break up the alphabet into any form, and then all I'd have to do is give you the key, and then you could take anything gibberish that I wrote, and you could figure out what I was saying. So that's kind of a sad element of this, is that ironically they've always kind of kept the real sweet stuff of knowledge to themselves and left you with a dry, sterile, dead religion. And I'm not sharing this to make religion any greater. Like I said, I've never gotten it well enough to have any huge happening out of it, but I have had fun with it, and I don't feel like God doesn't allow us to have fun. So it's when I would take this and then I would put it in a form that either would be to hide something, because God doesn't like things hidden. First of all, God sees everything. He just knows what you're doing. But secondly, it's not anything more than what it is. They're numbers, equal letters. And if there's any truth to it, you can't escape that divinity anyway. And then everything that you try to write will have to match the numbers and show either that you're a truthful person or a liar, perhaps. But it is ironic that I have never been offered because I went to church for 20 years of my beginning of my life and raised a Catholic and have Jewish friends, and none of them turned me on to this. It was the most hated man on earth, Aleister Crowley, who freed this knowledge so that, like I said, I don't know what for. It doesn't do us any good. It's just numbers. If we spend too much time in books, we're kind of lost anyway. So that's the part. I mean, I've looked at it numerous times. I use it more for art. I draw a picture and I'll maybe just draw in some of the ideas or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I said, some of the Hebrew words are like house or nail, and I find that fascinating. So I try to think of it that way. I mean, English is its own version of that. We just are not in on it at all. There's even a theory that Sir Francis Bacon created English as a part of the Enochian language that was created in the just after the Dark Ages in the 1500s, and he was noted to be kind of the right-hand man of the Queen at the time of England, and possibly, spy 007, and possibly William Shakespeare at the same time. All different varying things, but it goes with the covert nature of what's going on with the reality. So I just wanted to do this. I think I might come back and do another one on a different subject, but I wanted to go with this for a little while. Like I say, Gematria Calculator and Sacred Text is a great website, and it'll have some Aleister Crowley stuff, but it'll have other people's take on Kabbalah, Gematria. It's good to get a variance of different opinions, because really, if you're going to be studying it, you don't want too many opinions. You just want the math and you want the facts. And so it's important to find numerous resources. I just gave up so early on out of boredom. I seriously doubt it. I think he was a government asset, and I think when you're not a part of the billionaires club and the people who run millions of people's lives, I mean, is it bad to go to war? I mean, yes, it's bad. But I mean, are these people doomed because they went and fought for our country? No. I mean, so he was in a different realm of what people are doing for society and civilization. He probably did some bad things. But was he evil? I mean, I think, honestly, like I've said before, we're all kind of fallen in nature. And so I don't point any fingers. but I know enough with my own heart to test the spirits, as they say. So honestly, I mean, I just kind of lately proclaimed Jesus as being awesome, and not. I don't think Aleister Crowley was awesome. I just think he had some truth nuggets that he was studying. He was raised a Christian. Whether he ended up getting it and being saved, probably not. He was focused on himself. He was an egotistical maniac. Yes. He was like any superstar now with lots of money. And so I don't know what I would do with billions of dollars, but I'm sure I would not be a humble, conscientious being all the time. That doesn't mean I don't want to be taken care of and have that, but it's no secret why I don't have lots of money. It's never been my focus. I want to be communicating with people and everybody and doing my daily work, and not too much, because there's life to live and there's people to enjoy, and there's just quiet time with God, stuff like that. So, and then when would I have had time to read these wonderful books that can tempt me? And I mean, that is the story of Goethe's Faust. He was brilliant and he needed more, and he paid the ultimate price for that. But I mean, that is human nature. So if you can balance that without going over the edge, but this is God's creation and he wants you to see it all, if only to reaffirm what you shouldn't be doing and what track you should be on. You know what I mean? It's not important for me to be on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's like Aleister Crowley, but it is no surprise, out of this whole entire world, especially in this last 100 years, of people who are almost devoid of inspiration and devoid of love of God, why he wouldn't seem attractive to people. Because at least he had a desire for life and a thrill for life. And I would love to say that about all of my Christian and Jewish and Hindu and Buddhist friends and whatever, pagans or whatever you are, but it's not really there for most people. So it's kind of sad. So at least he was, he was out of control, but he was alive. And that is to be noted, if only to not do that with him, and to carry on with Jesus and say, whew, I almost took the Gematria too far. Yes, you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to me. Anyway, I got to go. And like I said, I think I'm going to do another one, but it's not going to be on this subject. It'll be a surprise. It's usually always about Jesus. Yes, we all should follow Jesus. But, like I said, the next one won't be about this, but it's always going to turn out to be about Jesus. I'll pick a different subject, and it's still going to turn back to Jesus. Because it's my favorite thing to talk about. He's the most inspirational being who's ever lived, and can't really talk enough about it. What a life of infamy, I guess they say. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Don't want this to get too crazy. Peace.